Hey out there, all you fantastic internet people. It's time yet again for another of the most dated songs lists. Today we're going over the top 10 most dated songs of the decade that whiny millennials can't seem to stop bitching about, the 80s. The 80s are an interesting decade in that a lot of the songs that made this list, unlike the previous two lists, aren't on here specifically because of outdated or potentially offensive lyrical content. There are a few of those, but mostly it's just down to production, aesthetic, sensibilities. The 80s were in many ways a very dated time, and there's a lot of goofy fashion trends and ideas that don't really fly so much anymore. The stupid hairstyles and everything. It was a weird fucking time. I mean, Ronald Reagan was the fucking president. It's going to be a weird fucking time. So, for instance, in the 80s, you see a lot less songs that are, like, blatantly racist, because society has moved on from that, but not to worry, there's still plenty of songs that are misogynist or homophobic floating around the Billboard Hot 100. So yeah, most of the songs on this list are just here because they could not exist outside of the 80s. They're like typical 80s shit, but I've got some on here that hopefully you haven't heard of before, and maybe a couple you have heard of before. But, you know, it's the 80s. Alright, let's get into the 80s. At number 10, we have Heart of Rock and Roll by Huey Lewis and the News. Now, like I've said in the past two videos, this isn't a list of bad songs. Some of these songs are actually pretty damn good, and I like me some Huey Lewis and the News. I'm on record for that. I love Power of Love, and I Want a New Drug, and Hip to Be Square. All those songs are my fucking jam, and I think Huey Lewis is one of the best rock bands of all time, not just of the 1980s, in that they seamlessly blend the sounds of classic 1950s rock with the more up-to-date, cutting-edge 1980s stuff in a really cool, fun way that I don't think has been adequately replicated before or since. That's why, of course, they were asked to do the soundtrack for Back to the Future, which is like a really good choice. I could have put any Huey Lewis and the News song on this list because technically they are all dated, both being products of the 1980s, and even in the 1980s they were dated because they were trying to sound like the 1950s. Succeeding, I would argue, but it's still not everyone's cup of tea. It's not exactly like trying to be crazy futuristic or anything. It's not Tangerine Dream. But I put Heart of Rock and Roll on here because it's just indicative of a time in rock history that no longer exists. What the Heart of Rock and Roll essentially strives to do is extend an olive branch of peace through the ages. It's Huey Lewis and the News going, you know, there's some new trends in rock, like punk and new wave and stuff, that we don't quite understand. You know, we have more classic sensibilities, but the heart of rock and roll, the core message is still beating, you know. People still use rock as a mode of expression and an exciting form of musical theater, and we're going to make this anthem about how the heart of rock and roll is still going strong all over the country, and everyone is still rocking out. Even if it's a different kind of rock, the same spirit is there. Rock is still vibrant and cool, even if, you know, it's younger people doing it and they do rock a little differently. Now, the reason this song is dated is, again, because it's from an overly optimistic period where rock, truth be told, was still kind of going in stride. Like, even with punk stuff, like The Clash's Should I Stay or Should I Go, that's a damn good punk song. It's a damn good rock song if you consider punk rock, and it's a damn kickin' fine tune, if I do say so myself. But if Huey Lewis and the News were around today, trying to extend the olive branch of peace to today's rock groups, like the fucking Arctic Monkeys or Maroon 5 or Imagine Dragons, they'd have a much tougher time convincing me that the heart of rock and roll was still beating. Because I really think the heart of rock and roll is kind of fucking dead. Because all these bands like Maroon 5 are just like fucking boring pop crap. And we don't have groups like Huey Lewis and the News anymore who are badass and awesome and giving rock a good name. You know, we just got fucking Adam Levine's face plastered all over. Ooh, looky, it's Adam Levine, the face of rock music. You know, no wonder everyone has gone towards rap. Rock fucking sucks nowadays. What happened to working for a living and fucking, I want a new drug when it won't make me sick? What happened to that shit? We just got moves like a tiger, making beautiful mistakes. So yeah, I feel like the heart of rock and roll is outdated simply because rock and roll isn't beating anymore. It died like around 2000, and it's just sucked. It's just completely gone down the shitter because no one knows how to play it correctly. And yeah, there's just from a point in time when, like, you know, 50s rock could say hi to 80s rock, and 80s rock could say hi to 50s rock. And it's just this really nice little message of solidarity that could not be made today. Like, you could not convince me that the heart of rock and roll is still going strong. Hence why this song is dated, because it came from a point when, you know, rock and roll was still revolutionary in so many ways and so many cool innovations were being made to it. Alright, at number 9 we got PacMan Fever. Not much to this song. It's just about a Pac-Man addict. You know, people complain about microtransactions and loot boxes being a new thing. Oh no, you know, my kid got hooked on a mobile game. But this has been an integral part of gaming since gaming's humble origins in the video arcade of yore, where kids would just go and waste all their money all day on Pac-Man. Just quarter in the slot, quarter in the slot, quarter in the fucking slot, over and over again. Donkey Kong, Mario, Q*bert. People legit wasted money on fucking Q*bert. They wanted that gaming fix so bad. So that's what this song is about, number 9. I mean, I guess in that regard it's not dated because, like, you know, video games still siphon shitloads of money out of a bunch of rubes, but it's very much of its time. It's got Pac-Man sound effects in it. And, you know, these days Pac-Man just seems quaint by comparison. Just an adorable little relic of a time gone past. He doesn't seem nearly so bad as all the crap that's being shoveled out these days by all these hokey fucking developers. Really though, I don't like any gaming, and PacMan Fever is just like really cheesy and stupid. It's an okay song if it had different lyrics. It's kind of catchy, but there's nothing like great about it. And it's just about going to the video arcade and getting good at Pac-Man, which is not like a crazy cool song premise, in my opinion. I don't see Pac-Man as that cool, but, you know, to each their own, I guess. I mean, I don't hate Pac-Man or anything. I like Pac-Man more than fucking Resident Evil or Fallout or any of that crap, but, you know, at the end of the day, I just feel like this is a very 80s song, so hence its inclusion here. Not much more to it than that. At number 8, we got Terminal Frost from Pink Floyd's album A Momentary Lapse in Reason. Momentary lapse in reason, more like decade-long lapse in reason, because holy shit, Pink Floyd sucked during the 80s. Isn't that weird that they're great during the 60s and great during the 70s, and then all of a sudden the 80s come around and they're just completely out of their depth and they have no idea how to adapt their sound to the current time period, and they end up making an entire album that just sounds like B-tier vaporwave? It was Terminal Frost because it's a really terrible instrumental and it's really fucking boring, and if you played it for someone they wouldn't actually know it's Pink Floyd because it sounds nothing like The Wall, nothing like Animals, nothing like Gumma, nothing like any of the records that actually made Pink Floyd famous and big to begin with. Pink Floyd, in their heyday, in their prime, when making songs like Money or Another Brick in the Wall, actually sound leagues ahead of the curve. They are one of the least dated bands, like The Wall and Dark Side of the Moon have aged really well compared to a lot of prog rock albums and similar albums from the 70s. And then the 80s comes around, and instead of setting the trends, instead of making the sound, instead of saying this is what the sound is going to be, they just give in to trends. They just like follow the sound of other people or not even like other bands. Like, this just sounds like fucking Windows tutorial background music. It's pathetic. What the fuck happened to Pink Floyd? And you might say, oh, well, you know, it's just a case of Pink Floyd getting old. You know, they started in the 60s. They couldn't prolong their epicness till the 80s. I say, listen to Imminence Front by The Who, another 60s rock band that lasted until the 80s, and I consider Imminence Front to kind of be the last, like, really great Who song, like the end of their classic period, but it's so fucking good. Everything about Imminence Front translates the Who's sound into the 80s extremely well. And it's like, you've got this 80s sound, but you can still tell that it's the Who. It's still got that Who character to it. That's a great example of an older 60s rock band adapting their sound into the 80s. Pink Floyd just was unable to do that for whatever reason, and I'd expect that from them. I'd expect them to be able to adapt their sound, because for so long they were on like the absolute cutting edge, releasing a saucer full of fucking secrets, and then you go to a momentary lapse of reason and it's like, what the fuck happened here? What happened to you, Pink Floyd? Where'd your fucking soul go? Anyway, yeah, Terminal Frost in particular, I'm putting at the number 8 slot as the most dated. You go listen to it. It sounds terrible. You'll be like, what the fuck? What the hell? This is Pink Floyd? I mean, yeah, you know, this is the era that everyone just tries to forget, and they pretend like it went straight to Division Belt, but it really didn't, you know. This happened, and I think we would be better off if we acknowledged that it did. Okay, at number 7, we got another case of a trendsetter becoming a fucking follower with Abracadabra by the Steve Miller Band. Steve Miller is an interesting case in that The Joker is one of the most ahead-of-the-curve, trend-setting fucking songs ever made. If you told me it was made yesterday, I would actually believe you, because it sounds nothing like the other 70s romantic ballads of that era. It sounds like a Harry Styles song, or like some Justin Bieber shit. What's described in it is exactly what every TikToking e-girl these days wants. The character Steve Miller describes smokes weed, he's a goofball, you know, he's charming. That's completely contradictory to the image of like the desirable male in the 1970s. What Steve Miller describes in The Joker is just the modern e-boy, and everything about The Joker just screams like 2010s. There's nothing 70s about it. It's extremely modern in that regard, and yet Steve Miller somehow went from producing great songs like Space Cowboy and Your Saving Grace and Living in the USA. Living in the USA is one of my heaviest rotation tapes. I listen to that shitter whenever I go out for a walk because it's fucking awesome. And not all the songs on it are aged as well as The Joker. Some of them do sound a little like the 70s. But then you get to the 80s and Abracadabra, and it's like, holy fuck, this song blows. It's boring, the chord progression is stupid, the music video's stupid. What I like about the music video for The Joker is it's just the Steve Miller Band playing in a room, and it's like raw and grainy, and it has kind of a highway movie feel to it. Steve Miller songs tend to have that. They feel like something from Easy Rider. And then Abracadabra comes along and Steve Miller's like, ooh, it's going to be a circus sideshow and we're going to have magicians and jugglers and acrobats and shit. And it's way too excessive and gaudy. And like the color scheme's all off, and none of it's impressive, you know, because these are just circus performers doing circus shit, and I'd just rather hear an awesome, cool Steve Miller tune, but it's just like, Abracadabra. It's not even fucking catchy. Like, imagine a Steve Miller song that's just not fucking catchy. How do you go from Take the Money and Run to this fucking shit? Abracadabra is pathetic, and it's yet another example of a really cool rock star who was previously, like, at the fucking top. just becoming lame in the 80s. Even though there's a lot of bands that came of their prime in the 80s and really developed into something special, there's a lot of bands that just like fell completely down the shitter, and the Steve Miller Band is one of those. His era was most definitely the 70s, and anything after that I would not recommend listening to. Abracadabra is really terrible. The music video is terrible. The song itself is terrible. It fucking sucks. Abracadabra, I'm gonna reach out and grab ya. What the fuck, Steve Miller? Okay, number 6, we got Xanadu, the theme song from the movie Xanadu. Nothing much to say here. This is just another of those songs that is dated, because Xanadu is a dated 80s movie, one of the most 80s movies you'll ever watch, and as such, its titular theme tune, entitled Xanadu, is equally dated, because a song like this just would not exist today. Xanadu is also dated, of course, because it's trying to recapture like the movie musical, and I guess it's trying to also be like It's a Wonderful Life, except like the angel is like hot, and you know, it's a romance, and it's like, you know, just a confusing mess, just a regular slop heap. Now, it's not a very good movie, and I don't really like it, and yeah, the song sucks too. There's nothing really great about the song. I wouldn't recommend it, but it's very dated, and it gives a good indication of where the 80s was going, and what a wild time it was going to be, just what an absolute cringe factory it was going to be. It's not all Ghostbusters, you know, you're not always going to get a song as awesome as Ray Parker Jr. jumping out with the fucking Who You Gonna Call. You know, some stuff is just like Xanadu, and it just like sucks. And I think this is the part again that like these millennials who watch fucking Stranger Things just like choose to consciously block out, that like there was a ton of crap during the 80s, and it sucked, and there's like no redeeming qualities about it. Xanadu is pretty boring. The song, I mean the movie's also boring. Not quite as much, but the song's like really boring, so wouldn't recommend it. Very dated. Next. Alright, at number 5, we have Obsession. This is an interesting one because unlike a lot of the others on this list, it's due to its lyrical content. It's not because of the production per se. It is a very 80s song with like a very synthy hook, and Emotion really puts in like the fucking goofy, tacky costumes to use. You got the Roman gladiator shit in here. You got the tapping shoe, very goofy 80s shit that would not be in the 90s or 2000s or anything. This is a very outdated music video, but the song itself, if it had different lyrics, would actually be kind of impressive from a technical standpoint. The problem is that the song is discussing like a seriously toxic relationship, where like both these people, or I guess just one of them, but it's like spoken from two people, but it's just like from the perspective of one person. I will have you, I will have you, and they're just like obsessing over each other, hence the title of the song. You know, I'm not like, you know, pro you know, judging songs or anything. Like, that is a huge factor in this series, but, you know, I can't help that this is just like an extremely outdated, tacky way of looking at how to have a healthy romantic relationship. And maybe it was back then, but we certainly have come a long way to the point where if this came out today, people would say, oh, you know, it's weird to stalk around your love interest like this and like force them to be interested in you even if they're not. And that's just basically what this song is describing. Just an obsessive, toxic relationship where one person just like relentlessly obsesses over the other one to an unhealthy extent. And one of the lines is, like a butterfly, and that's referencing the 60s movie The Collector, which isn't even like a sexy movie. It's a horror movie about this guy who collects dead butterflies, and he wants to collect this girl and add her to his collection. It's kind of fucking creepy, you know. It's kind of a psychotic character, so I don't know why they like reference that like it's hot or something. There's also the line, who do you want me to be to make you sleep with me? And it's like, just be yourself in a relationship, and that way you'll find the person who you're most compatible with just being you. You shouldn't put on like this fake front of being someone else just to get laid. That's not a good idea in a relationship. I'm asexual, I'm aromantic, I've never had a romantic relationship, but this just seems like basic fucking knowledge that like most people would be aware of, but I guess maybe Animotion just wasn't. Actually, this is a cover. They didn't come up with this, but I'm talking about the Animotion version. But it's just weird lyrics. I don't get why this was ever considered hot. It's really not hot or romantic. It's just describing like the worst possible state a relationship could be in, where one party is just like relentlessly obsessing over the other party, destroying their own life in the process, and pretending to be a completely different person just to have sex, which is like really stupid. Yeah, a dumb song. Okay, synth line. Like if the lyrics were different, again, it'd still be dated. It'd be a very 80s song because you don't see this many synths after the 80s. But the lyrics, like, what the fuck? This is just like, that's not how to have a relationship, That's why it's here on the list. Very dated 80s song from back when, it was just seen as like, oh, women are like still secretaries and servants, but also, we want to be enlightened, but also we're all yuppies now, so, the sexual revolution is over, so we've all become like Reaganite conservatives, but then like we're also pretending to be like modern. What the fuck is up with the 80s, and why does everyone like them so much? They were fucking stupid. Okay, at number 4, you might have seen this coming. Speaking of yuppies, we got We Built This City from the album Knee Deep in the Hoopla by Starship, formerly Jefferson Starship, and before that, Jefferson Airplane. I actually really fucking like We Built This City. I might be considered zany in that aspect, but I actually really fucking love it. It's dated as fuck, but I just can't ignore what an amazing job it does of being dated as fuck. It's amazingly dated. And I kind of view the Starship universe as like separate to the Jefferson Airplane universe, because all of Jefferson Airplane by this point has sold out to the extent that you can't take them seriously as social revolutionaries or great thinkers anymore. They're not making songs like White Rabbit. They're not interested in revolution. They're not interested in sparking the young minds to think critically about the society in which they inhabit. They've gone full fucking sellout mode, and they're just going to make commercial jingle garbage until the cows come home. And frankly, I don't actually mind all that much. It's a predictable turn of events. In a decade where Pink Floyd has become lame with a momentary lapse of reason, at least Jefferson Airplane has become bad in a fun, zany, wild, wacky way that no other group really got. The best part of We Built This City is where the fucking statue of Abraham Lincoln stands up and is like, yes, I'm your rock god. Remember, we built this city on rock and roll. And I go, holy shit, this is the most awesome fucking music video. It's so fucking 80s singed. It's just fucking unavoidable how 80s this thing is. And then there's all the pedants who are like, oh, it's Mambo, not Mamba. But just from a compositional standpoint, I don't think it would sound as good if it said Marconi plays the Mambo. That just doesn't sound right. And maybe it's just because I've heard the line so many times, but Marconi plays the Mamba just does sound better. And most people don't know the difference and don't really care. And I think picking We Built This City apart too much is just like kind of, pointless. It's not offensive. It's not an offensive song unless you see Jefferson Airplane selling out and going completely to the bottom of the barrel as offensive. But I don't really. It's a totally different thing. It's a totally separate time period and place, and I'm not that offended by it. It's just a fun little pop tune, and it's 80s as fuck, and it's dated as fuck, and absolutely nothing like this would be made today. Nothing this inventive, creative, balls to the wall fucking insane, but, you know, I don't really mind. It's a sellout move. It's a corporate, trashy rock opera disguised as like some kind of statement, like, ooh, remember how you don't go to that kind of place, and it's, you know, what kind of place? You're on top of the fucking world. You're world-class rock stars, you're shiny and glittery, but, you know, you built this city, so you can stay in it. I don't really care. You built it. Deal with it. So yeah, dated song, but I fucking love it, and I stand by that. I really like We Built This City. Good shit. Go watch it, go listen to it. It's great. Alright, at number 3, this just barely made it on the list, but then I remembered that it existed, and it's from 1989, so it qualifies as an 80s song. Tone Loc with Funky Cold Medina, or Tone Loc. I forget exactly how it's pronounced, but this is a rap song. I figured to add some flavor and variety to the list, not all rock songs. You know, the 80s was also the decade where rap really got its footing and started, you know, got straight bangers like NWA, Public Enemy, all of that. This song is not one of those. This is just a song about an aphrodisiac, which is actually a subgenre of love song going all the way back to the 60s, with songs like, you know, Love Potion Number 9 and all that. I would argue Funky Cold Medina is actually worse, because not only is this a song about an illicit substance that violates a woman's consent, it's just really hammy and delivered in the most awkward way possible, and I'm not sure if it's supposed to be a joke song, but I don't think it is. I think Tone Loc is completely earnest here in trying to sell us that this Funky Cold Medina stuff is like cool, and he's cool for using it. I get it. Aphrodisiacs have always been an element of romantic fiction and the like, but think about it from this perspective, right? All you're doing, if you say you have to resort to an aphrodisiac to get women to get in the sack with you, is just admitting that you suck otherwise, and you can't get women on your own, so you have to use this imaginary substance to get women all hooked on you. Like, what are you saying, Tone Loc? You're just saying that you're not interesting romantically, and you know, your ding-dong is probably tiny, and you have to resort to this dishonest means, so you're not like a player, you're just a fucking cheater. That's how I view aphrodisiac songs anyway. In the song, he says it's not an aphrodisiac. He makes a distinct point to like separate it from the class of aphrodisiacs, but it clearly is just an aphrodisiac. That's clearly what Funky Cold Medina is supposed to be, just like Number 9 or Spanish Fly or any of these fake urban legend substances that, you know, don't really exist because there's nothing you can do to get a girl to fall in love with you. If she's not into you, she's not fucking into you. Move the fuck on. Grow the fuck up. You know, I'm an asexual and aromantic, so maybe that seems like a little harsh, but that's just how I see it, you know. If a girl isn't into you, just deal with it. Yeah, there's nothing really hot about this song. Tone Loc isn't like a badass, you know, like Biggie. Like with Hypnotize with Biggie, I get that, where it's like, Biggie, 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 can't you see? And all the girls are like clustered around Biggie. And I get that, because Biggie's kind of hot. But the whole song of Funky Cold Medina, Tone Loc is just like, yeah, I have to use this fluid to get girls to be into me. And that's just kind of sad. The song is just kind of depressing in that regard. And then there's also the bit that's transphobic, hence why it's also on here. The bit about Sheena and how Tone Loc like takes this girl called Sheena home, and then he takes like the robe off, and then Sheena was a man, and it's like, well, what, you couldn't fucking tell, Tone Loc? It's also not stated whether like Sheena is a transvestite who just enjoys cross-dressing or is transsexual, which would be interesting to know. But you know, this is 1989, so we don't get to the details like that. Tone Loc doesn't really go into the details. He's just like, I don't want no Oscar Mayer wiener. You must be sure that your girl is pure for the funky cold Medina. And it's like, well, no, you know, presumably this would work on guys too. You gotta be sure your girl is pure, like she's a fucking, you know, like rock product or something, like fucking cement or like asphalt. You know, you gotta make sure that there's no impurities in your girl, which basically just means, oh, if they're trans, fuck them, get out the fuck out. You know, just a great example of a rap being like transphobic or homophobic, even though, you know, presumably its stated intent is to be like, you know, an uplifting social commentary, you know, and like a healthy artistic expression of marginalized groups. And then it'll just say like the F slur out of nowhere, or be like blatantly transphobic like this, and you're just like, what the fuck? What the fuck was up with early rap? And then maybe the funniest line is after he kicks Sheena out, Tone Loc is like, this is the 80s, and I get down with the ladies. And that just leads me to question, like, what about it specifically being the 80s means that you gotta have the ladies, you know? Were you gay in the 70s, Tone? You know, what about it being the 80s is, like, inherently straight? Just a weird line. I don't exactly get that one. I will say this, the riff on Funky Cold Medina is actually pretty damn good, and isn't even really dated. There are actually old school hip-hop songs that are more dated in terms of production style. Like, they just have that kind of boom-bap type noise that you won't really hear these days. By comparison, Funky Cold Medina's incorporation of this kind of cool guitar riff is very, like, it's kind of forward-thinking, actually. It sounds a lot like a really good Beastie Boys riff they could rap over pretty well. Of course, the difference is that the Beastie Boys were, like, you know, wrongfully accused of promoting misogyny in their songs, like She's On It or Fight for Your Right, whereas they're like pretty direct satirizations of that sort of misogynist outlook. And that's like really obvious if you just watch the music videos, where, like, for instance, in the music video for She's On It, there's the bit where, like, Ad Rock literally offers a girl Spanish Fly, but then, like, she kicks it up, and then they're all just, like, trampled by a girl stampede. So, you know, it's pretty obvious that, like, the Beastie Boys are, like, satirizing misogyny in a very clever and interesting way. And that's why the Beastie Boys have aged really, really well, even though some of their beats are, like, less advanced than Funky Cold Medina. But Funky Cold Medina's lyrics are just, like, utter garbage, and there's nothing clever about them. There's nothing funny. All the jokes suck. Again, I don't know if Tone Loc is trying to be, like, serious or cool or, like, a big clown or what. The subject matter of the song just sucks. It's nothing new. Aphrodisiac songs were done before this, and the whole conceit of the song is just that Tone Loc can't get a girl on his own, so he's gotta use the love juice. Oh yeah, you know, just imagine a song about like that coming out these days. Ooh, time for a roofie. Again, just really dated shit. Another great example of songs from the 80s that are just weird by today's standards. I don't know, you know, I can't help it. Time just moves on. Things just get different. Frick. Okay, moving on. At number 2, we have Automatic Man by Michael Cimbello. This is an even more 80s song than We Built This City, but it's fallen into obscurity, which I think is sad. I think it's a damn good song. Again, you know, this isn't a worst songs list. This is just a most dated songs list. Some of these songs I like explicitly because they are dated and because you don't see music like this anymore. So if you haven't seen Automatic Man by Michael Cimbello, You should go fucking watch it. It's amazing. It tries so many things that just did not catch on, and that nobody after Michael Cimbello ever fucking tried. There are production techniques in this song that are just like decades in the past, in like this arcane treasure vault, and stuff like this just does not get made anymore. And I think that's a shame, because Automatic Man is a futuristic sounding song that at the same time does not sound at all like the future. It's going for a futuristic sound, but it doesn't achieve that in any way, because it's full of 80s noise. Like, you know, an Aphex Twin song will always sound sleek and futuristic and stripped back because it's kind of minimalist. But then you get something like Automatic Man that's just like crammed with Michael Cimbello's wacky vocals and all these like tribal chirps in the background. I don't even know what that sound is. That do 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 do. I don't even know what that's supposed to be. There's nothing like that after Automatic Man, and it's just kind of fucking amazing. If you listen to it, just like how dated it is. It's great. It's a great example of the more positive aspects of the 80s, the more positive aspects of what 80s sound was capable of. I really like Automatic Man, and I'm glad I know about it, and now you know about it too. Go give this one a watch and a listen. It's really fucking good. And I like the robot theme. The music video is the shit. I just like the you know, kind of understated homoeroticism of it all, but also like the production technique, the frickin', it's a cool idea, you know. There aren't enough fucking songs about robots. There aren't enough good fucking sci-fi songs, so I'll take what I can get. Automatic Man, highly recommend it. Go listen to it. It's good shit. It's dated, but it's good shit. Okay, moving on. The most dated song of the 80s. Drum roll, please. I'm sure I missed out on quite a few, but that's just to be expected. I don't know every song ever made. And the number one most dated song is Get It On by Kingdom Come. This is the most dated song. Unlike We Built This City or Automatic Man, it's not fun. There's nothing fun about Get It On by Kingdom Come. The only reason I know about Kingdom Come even is because I happened across an 80s Boston-based music zine while I was walking from Longmont to Hygiene to film a video for my ARG Hypnagogic Archive. That's not even a joke. There were these 80s music zines randomly scattered on the side of the road, and I picked them up and I was like, damn, this is fucking interesting, talking about all these bands that don't exist anymore. And one of these was Kingdom Come, an 80s hair metal band, like the most hair metal that hair metal ever fucking got. And if you watch the music video for Get It On, which was mentioned explicitly in that zine, it's fucking amazing. This is the epitome of dated music here, because it's music that thinks it's so fucking cool. All the members of Kingdom Come making the goofiest possible faces, just contorting like as they shred these horrible guitars, and it doesn't sound good, and the production value is like way off, and the camera work is like sometimes it's slow-mo, and then they're in like a crypt and there's lightning flashing across their faces. This is just an example of a period in rock and roll history that has easily passed, and I'm glad it passed because it was stupid and there were all these copycat bands. I still like music trends that tend to like make everything sound the same, and hair metal was one of those. There was a good while where it just like was all crap and not much of it was very good, and Kingdom Come is really the epitome of that. You're unlikely to find a goofier, more washed up, outdated, tacky, fucking neon fluorescent performance than Kingdom Come with Get It On. And yes, the title of the song is referring to sexual intercourse, in case you couldn't tell, because all the guys in Kingdom Come really think they're hot. They really think they're the dashing heartthrobs of the age, even though they're just like clowning it up big time. This is one of the goofiest fucking music videos I've ever seen. It's kind of charming, but I'd be amiss not to call it the most dated song of the 1980s, like, hands fucking down. It's very difficult to find more dated shit than this, that I'm fine with leaving in the 80s, and I get why it didn't last all that long, and it died out, because it had very little staying power. There's not really much you can do with this. Anyway, that's my list of the most dated songs of the 1980s. That is, songs that could only exist in the 1980s. It might have surprised you. You might not have suspected Get It On would be the #1, but that's just what this channel is, baby. Surprises, surprises, surprises. I never fail to completely turn you around and fuck up your brain. It's just how unpredictable I am. But yeah, I do think, honestly, that's the most dated song. Did I miss some? Is there some offensive Reagan-themed music that you'd like me to mention perhaps in a future video? Or you'd just like to bring up? Let me know down in the comments. Tell me all that down in the comments. Leave some flippin' comments. Push all the buttons and doop 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 and all that jazz. And until next time, the next video will be going over, of course, the most dated songs of the 1990s. So get hyped for that. Hope you enjoyed this one. This one was a little more light, but the 1990s will be a little heavier because the neon is leaving us. The fun and carefree, just late Cold War haze is going to leave us, and we're going to be launched headlong into the postmodern period, and Nirvana is going to start up, and we're going to get fucking angsty. Okay, sir, you ready for that? We're gonna enter fucking modernity with the 90s list. But there's still gonna be a lot of fucking dated music that you might have forgotten existed, so come back next time, and I'll see you then. Until next time, I'm Nicholas Sars Cicada, and I do videos and shit.